Good evening, and welcome to the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 16th. Just for your information, this meeting is audio and video recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel at a later date. We can call this meeting to order. We have an opening prayer from our student trustee, Jackson Brown.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Spirit of life, may we yield to your love, resting in your mercy. Turning to still waters, may we trust your quiet rhythm to calm us back to center, to bring new joy in living. Let the peace of this prayer time fill us with the peace for which we long. Amen.
Thank you. As of now, we have no motions adopted in camera yet. We'll have to go back in camera, but we do have information received in camera, and Vice Chair Ian Tomasi will report.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's not. Okay, it's information.
All right, we'll scratch that. If we can have a motion to approve the agenda this evening. Trustee Carabella, seconded by Trustee Rowe. All in favor? Thank you. Any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? Seeing none. We do have a presentation this evening, and Director Dawson would like to introduce our speaker, please.
Thank you to you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to present to you tonight Elena DiBattista, who is the Executive Director of Our Kids Network. And many of you know that Our Kids has had a long history in the Halton region and has been a model network not only in the province of Ontario but nationally with partner agencies and services. And I don't want to steal Elena's thunder and her presentation, but it's been a number of years since you've made a presentation, so I invited her here tonight. So I'd like to welcome you, Elena, to our district.
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here this evening. Good evening. I'm here to give you an update. I think perhaps I've not been here probably in about 3 years, so I'm here to give you an update on our collective work with the Our Kids Network and what we're doing throughout Halton to really ensure that children, youth, and families have the best supports available to them so that our kids can really thrive and become the best adults they can be. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview. I think I only have 10 minutes. So I'm going to probably speak very quickly, and I'm going to put my watch because I tend to talk quite a bit. So I thought I would start with a bit of a... Okay. The down button? Ooh. Okay, thank you. I'm very old, so technology still amazes me. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history of the Our Kids Network because I just wanted to demonstrate how mature the actual network is and how it's really evolved over the last 20 plus years. So in 1996, so as you can see, we're over 20 years old, or just becoming 20 years old. An early years committee was established really by a sorted group of, and a cross-sectoral group of service providers looking that were providing early years services, looking to better do their work together. So they knew that working together made most sense, and they also knew that working together they probably could achieve some outcomes that they couldn't achieve alone. So that work started in 1996. They very, very quickly built traction and momentum, so much so that the school years community started to say, we want to be working in a similar fashion. So they also established a school years committee and produced a report that really gave them a bit of a landscape of what was happening within the school years service sector. So, anyone providing services to children, youth, and families in that age group. Very quickly, and this is a very abbreviated history, you can go on our website and find out lots of information. But in 2004, we did something that was quite unique, and really I haven't heard of another collective or network that has done this. we decided that we would formally sign a legal protocol agreement, and we invited 7, 8 at the time organizations that were regionally mandated and that provided services to children, youth, and families across Halton to come together and sign off on the agreement. It was a legal agreement, and that really has been a pivotal piece because not only did it get their senior staff on board, but it got their governance structures on board, their trustees, their counselors, their board of directors on board, and really invested in looking at working better together. And their agreement really outlined how they would work together and how they would make collective decisions and how they would sustain and support the work that they were doing. The first community report card was released, and I don't know if those of you who know about our community report cards, we don't have a hard copy anymore, but people used to carry it in their briefcase when people still had briefcases, or in their back pockets if their pocket was very large. And it was a report card that really gave you a bit of a state of the union on what was happening with kids and families. It used lots and lots of data. It broke the data down by neighborhood, and it really was an effective tool for planning and service delivery. The first report card was released then, and the first report card really focused on 0 to 6. And they decided, because evaluation and accountability really is a keystone and a foundational piece of our work, that they wanted to evaluate the work together. They did not want to sign on forever and ever, so they said 5 years. They were going to review how they worked in 5 years, do a really comprehensive review, not only of the impact of their work, but how they worked together and the impact of the partnership. And they also wanted to look at the impact of the products that they knew they were going to produce. So the evaluation began. In 2010, the pilot was completed. The evaluation was reviewed, and they very quickly decided that there was certainly some challenges in working together, but the benefits greatly outweighed the challenges. And they wanted to continue working together. You'll not be surprised that the school board was one of those original protocol partners. From the very beginning. So the school board has been involved, certainly from 1996 in terms of the early years projects and what was happening on school entry, and as we got into school years and got into specific issue areas, but certainly from 2004 the school board signed on legally to work together. In 2010 we established some very concrete strategic directions, and they started hiring some core staff. In between there, they also talked about and established community hubs, and I'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. In 2012, it took us 2 years to rework legally the protocol agreement. We re-signed and renewed that agreement, and it does get reviewed periodically, so again, you don't sign on forever. Erno Kids and the Halton Multicultural Council joined us at that point. I just wanted to present this. I'm not going to talk very much about that. This is our organizational chart. You can see that it's a little unruly. It has tons and tons of different committees, from our school years and early years to our Children's Mental Health and Developmental Service Committee, from our Hubs Committee, our Research Committee. And those are all of the committees that have evolved over the last 20 years and the pieces of work that we really focus on. But I wanted to demonstrate and show you visually how big and comprehensive that has become, because our community partners have really are really understanding and really see the merit in working together, and how that we can work together, we can deal with a number of issues that perhaps we couldn't otherwise. Our current protocol partners are listed there. You'll see that it's Children's Aid, both school boards, police, ROC, or the Reach Out Center for Kids, which is our children's mental health organization, Halton Region, both Children's Services and Health, and when occasionally we'll have other departments parachute in, but the primary ones are Social Services and Health, Children's Services in particular, Erno Kids, and Halton Multicultural Council, and they are our 8 regionally mandated protocol partners. Their responsibility is to really look at policy, to set and approve direction, because we set direction with community, and to look at sustainability. In addition, we have 90 participating agencies and organizations, some of them very formal, very big, some of them quite small and informal. Some of them not even an organization, so it could be a church group, it could be occasionally individuals come and join us. And they work within those various committees to really advance the work of our kids, and the work of our kids is the work of our community, because we really work on the premise that it takes a village to raise a child. We have over 200 individuals at any given month sitting on a committee, so you can imagine that the commitment is strong, and the breadth of the work is quite broad. On the board, it'll be listed some of the sectors that are involved with us. I want to talk a minute about our Halton 7, because the work was really grounded in 2004. We decided we needed to really set some objectives for ourselves that were measurable. So we, as a community, established 7 key population results that we thought were really important. Broad aspirational results. Children are healthy. What does that mean? Children are learning. Children are safe. Schools are connected to community, and neighborhoods are where we live, work, and play. And you'll note that very deliberately we went from individual child to the broader community, to the family, to the school, to the broader community, because we really are quite invested in knowing that everyone has a stake in raising vibrant children and ensuring that our children thrive to their best potential. Under each one of those 7 population results, we have a number of indicators that we measure on a regular basis. So I talked a little bit about that first report card in 2004. We have a 3-year monitoring cycle, and every 3 years we produced a written report. The last monitoring cycle we went virtual. So we now have a data portal that I'll tell you a little bit more. But this really allows us to measure how we work, measure what we are achieving through our work, because unless we're seeing results, we need to have a look at why are we doing what we're doing, and is anyone better off? That's the key question. At the end of the day, through our work, is anyone better off? I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm not even looking at my notes, a little bit about some of our key strategies and some of our key products. So asset building is one, and both school boards are very invested. The school board has done extensive work in asset building and ensuring that asset building is embedded in how the school board does its work. We adopted developmental assets as a framework, research-based by the Search Institute in the States, and have really encouraged and moved on with community in terms of ensuring that our community is aware what developmental assets are, not only developmental assets, but family assets and developmental relationships. And we've really built a Halton-wide strategy. We have a strategy table that has looked at what do we need in Halton to ensure that everyone, not just professional, knows about how to build assets in every child. So we have a training component. We have workshops, we have an organizational asset building toolkit, we are looking at building strategies for parents and building some pieces for parents. We're looking at how to engage youth, and we already have started to engage youth in that work. We have an early years asset video. We have a transitions to school video that looks at brain development and asset building, so we're really focusing on that. Part of our work will be the public education and ensuring that everyone knows the importance of focusing on the positive, building healthy children and youth, and not only focusing on the problematic issues. Another key product is our Halton iParent, and this is an online resource that parents and service providers, we're finding, are using quite extensively to find. Right now, there's parenting programs, child care programs, special needs programs. We're working next with libraries and recreation, and then we'll upload our children's mental health programs, and then who knows what else. We developed this product through consultation with families and through consultation in the community, looking at an easy-to-use a portal where parents can go to and get jettisoned to the right spot in the community or get information. So we're also building an information hub around it. It's called Halton iParent. We continue to work on the robust nature of that portal, and we continue to build with our community partners. I love this swipe. I'm really excited to talk about the data portal. That's the product that has replaced our Halton reports. It's an online interactive product. We worked really hard and long on what was important, and we asked what was important to be available here. And the one key piece was organizations wanted it to be interactive, and they wanted to be available to upload their information in a secure setting that no one else would see. So this portal has the ability to do that. You can use an Excel spreadsheet, and I can give you a great example of how it's been used. We have a number of examples. The one that I love to use is Milton Parks and Rec had a fabulous after-school program. They still do. They wanted to assess it. They did the normal way of assessing, surveys, how do you like this program, asking parents and kids, looked at attendance. But then they decided to overlay their information, and all it was a postal code of the kids in attendance over some key data that they knew about Milton. The target audience was kids at risk, living in poverty neighborhoods. Guess what? The kids attending did not live in poverty neighborhoods. They were attending from other neighborhoods. So they very quickly changed their intake process and very quickly changed the way that they recruited kids to this program. It was to be an after-school free program, 5 days a week for kids. And now they feel that they're hitting the mark. Not only is the program well accepted, they feel they're getting really good program results, but they're also hitting the right target audience. Without overlaying that information onto the data portal, they would have still been assuming they were doing a great job in terms of program delivery, and they were missing the mark in terms of who they needed to be getting coming to the program. So we're constantly updating our portal. We use local data. So we used to use our youth survey, and we're looking at how we can, working with our research committee, of which this board is a member, and through our data sharing agreement, how we can use the Tell Them From Me, aggregated up to the community level. They're also looking at our kindergarten parent survey, and we have been using that on the portal, our EDI. Again, never identifying a community or a school, always aggregating up so it's a broader geography, but giving some really good information. We also have census information, we have health information on there, and we're always looking at other types of information that we can put on the data portal. It's a unique tool that no other community has in this particular way in Canada that I know of. The health sector has it in the States. That's where we got the software. The other thing that we do with the data portal is we have a knowledge mobilization strategy. So we just don't present the data. We're looking at how do you use that data to really make a difference in your community and in your programming. So we're looking at moving from data to mobilizing from data to action. And those of you who had the pleasure of seeing Erica Van Roosmalen do a presentation, she always talked about research to action. She had drilled it into our research committee that it was so important. Research is terrific, but unless you can use it in community, unless you can really use it to spur action, then it's just research, right? Okay, my time's up. Is my time up? A couple of minutes, thank you. This is our website. Please go to there. You're going to get all of this information. I want to take a second or a minute to talk about our community hubs. So I talked about our hubs being put in place in 2004. We have 3 hubs. 2 are situated in Catholic schools. 1 is within, the Acton hub is within a public school. And they were part of the central piece of why our original protocol partners got together. They wanted them to be a bit of an incubation set on how to work better together. And they really have evolved into vibrant community resources, but they look very different because they respond to individual community needs. As you can imagine, what Aldershot needs, a very well-established, well-built-up community that really is starting to become more of an aging community with some space for programming, looks very different than Milton. Hugely populous, exploding population that has no space for programming. So they look very, very different. I wanted to talk for a second about our Acton Turns 20 in 30, and that was a project that was spurred on by the 3 principals in Acton of the elementary schools who got together and said our EDI scores really, really missed the mark. And what can we do about this? We know the kids come here and the scores are bad. And they were 38% of their kids were hitting the mark on school readiness. So they went to our Acton Hub coordinator, they brought the community together, and from that work we brought data to the table and made the data understandable. So we looked at what EDI was, all the different domains. And as a community, we devised a community plan to really help kids on the gross and fine motor skills domain, because that's where they were really struggling. And they did a very quick 1-month project that we're still waiting the results on because we don't have our EDI scores from last year. But from that work, that community was able to mobilize. They did a fall parent engagement, family engagement project, and they're now planning their next project. So what we thought was going to be a 1.5-month project has turned into an ongoing project that service providers are now doing things together that they never thought they would do. For example, Parks and Rec got money to provide a service within the schools. They weren't even involved. They just went out and got the money. They never do that, ever do that. So it was wonderful to see that happen. We have a youth collective impact project that again is based on developmental assets that we're at this point identifying and starting work with in North Oakville, and that will be focused on building relationships, because the research shows us very clearly that if you build relationships, outcomes for kids really improve. So we're looking at developing that, and we're doing it with youth at the table who are telling us not only who we need to connect with in the community and what will work within the community, but how they can be involved and how they can be leaders in this particular project. So those are just a few of the things that we're doing together as protocol partners, because people talk about the Our Kids Network, but the Our Kids Network really is a sum of its individual parts of everyone who works with us and who plans with us and who sits at our collective tables and problem solves around how can we be the best community for every child and youth in Halton.
Thank you very much, Elena. Very condensed version. Does anyone have any questions, quick questions of Elena right now? No? Well, thank you. We've got all our assets here, and thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to move one of our items, 9.1, which is actually a presentation. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit Education, and Superintendent Percassin will speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to introduce you to our two presenters this evening. Stephen Paquette, who is Chair of the Aboriginal Education Advisory Committee, and Sherry Seville, our Aboriginal Liaison Officer of Halton Catholic, to come and present to you this evening. So welcome.
Well, good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Sherry Seville, and I'm the Aboriginal Liaison for Halton Catholic District School Board. And I brought with me Stephen Paquette, who's the chair of our Aboriginal Education Advisory Committee. We share the Aboriginal Education Advisory Committee with the Halton Public Board, so it's a collaborative approach with both boards. And I want to also acknowledge some of our members that are in the audience as well. And thanks for coming and coming out for supporting us. We're not going to take very long. We submitted a staff report, and we just wanted to talk a little bit about it. But because Steve is the chair of the Aboriginal Education Advisory Committee, I'm going to send it over to Steve, and then he'll talk, and I'll be your banner.
I want to start off by saying Ani, Bozu, Sego, Tanzi, Wacheya. I bring greetings to you in some of the different First Nations languages of the people that walked on this land that we call Kanata. And I want to start off by acknowledging everyone in this room. Our elders tell us that, when we come together in a good way, good hearts and good minds, we should really reach out and try and have that eye contact, because we're told that's where the connection of the Spirit is. So as I go around, I want to acknowledge everyone here. I also want to let you know that prior to coming in here, I did prayers for this evening. And in those prayers, I asked that all of your ancestors, all that collective wisdom of your ancestors, be with you tonight to hear these words in a good way. I prayed for you and your families. I ask that your spirit helpers be in attendance with you to help guide you to hear these words in a good way. I introduced myself as Stephen John Paquette Gijnikaj, but I also share with you that I was born John Andrew Kimmelwan, and that's important for me to share. I don't know how many people here are familiar with the adoption scoop of the 60s. Something that I see great effort is being brought into the schools to try and teach them. There's much talk about the truth and reconciliation. But I was a product of the adoption scoop of the 60s. And so when I introduced myself as Stephen John Paquette, I also share with you that I was born John Andrew Kimmelwan. And that's something that I'm proud of. I have a third name, which is Bamanse, Bamat Windinase Gijnikaj. It's a spirit name, and it means he walks a good life. Again, I need you to understand that. I introduced myself as a proud father and as a very lucky husband. These are all roles and responsibilities that we're taught. These are things that we need to teach our children about roles and responsibilities. I want to start off by saying Chimigwich to Sherry for all the work that she did in this report. She's your liaison, but what I need you to understand is, from a community perspective, is that she is a gift. And I want to acknowledge the hard work that she puts into this, and you need to know that from a community perspective. There was a lot of work that was prepared, and I trust everyone had that wisdom to go through all the documents and see what we're asking. And there's a lot of paperwork here, and I could go through it, but I'm sure that you're already familiar with it. So what I want to try and do is I want to try and breathe spirit into those words. And we have teachings in the First Nations. When we do our teachings, we never had any PowerPoint presentations or handouts or books. Our classrooms were much like we are right now. We'd come together in a circle in a good way. And we too would have an opening, and I want to acknowledge our student trustee over there, Jackson Brown. In those words, I was inspired. In there, you had mentioned still water. And it reminds me of those shared teachings that our people had with your ancestors. Still water. It's a place that our elders spoke to that we should always try and aspire to be, to get to. And by coming here tonight, I'm hoping that collectively we can come together and make that still water. I need to let you know in a good way, with no bitterness and no hatred or anger or sadness in my heart, that water is not still right now. There's ripples on that water. There's also undercurrents that we can't see. But we need to acknowledge that. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it makes us uncomfortable to acknowledge those things. But I come to you as a father with 2 daughters. I'm asking you in a good, kind way to consider these recommendations that are being put forward to you. And I don't say it just as a father with 2 daughters in the school system. I say it for your children as well. I say it for your grandchildren. In First Nations, we talk about 7 generations, and that when we make decisions that we should always think for 7 generations ahead. So when you think of these recommendations that you're being asked to consider, we don't ask it just for ourselves right here and now. We ask it for the future relationships of Canada. I grew up in a world where, there was a lot of racism, and I got to tell you that still exists. And that's done because there's a lack of understanding and a lack of respect. And I want the world that your children and that your grandchildren grow up with mine. And they have a much deeper respect for each other. But in order for us to get there, that's going to require us at the table right now to have those conversations. I know that all the information is here. And I believe in your wisdom that you've gone through it. You know, we talk about truth and reconciliation. It's a hard thing sometimes for people to talk about. You know, but truth and reconciliation involves talking about the truth, eh? We can't just walk into a room and say, hey, sorry for all those things in the past, let's move on, eh? We can't do that. You know, we have to have those hard discussions. We do that with our children, don't we? Sometimes they go astray. So we have to sit down. And it's uncomfortable for them, I know. I had that discussion last night with my daughter. My wife and I. It was uncomfortable for me. You know. But when you have that love and that respect, you have those uncomfortable discussions. So what I'm asking for is that tonight we start those discussions. And we might not always come to agreement, but there's always discussion.
As you can see from the presentation that we put together, we had a few documents that we wanted to bring your attention to. And the first one was the First Nation Métis Inuit Education Charter that the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association has adopted as well. And they're asking all Catholic schools right across Ontario to adopt this First Nation Métis Inuit Education Charter so that we can start beginning our work with the truth reconciliation as well as just reconciling our past. We've also shared with you the statement from the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops, who's also stated in here that a lot of Christian churches were part of the residential school, and a number of Roman Catholic dioceses. They have also acknowledged that there's a dialogue that is required in order to cultivate an understanding of the truth of the residential schools. The Truth Reconciliation just finished wrapping up 7 years of work that they went across the country to gather stories from residential school survivors. And it was a very long road for our commissioners and for our people and our aunts and our aunties and uncles to go down this road of remembering some of the things that happened in the residential school. That part of our history has been swept under the rug. We know very little about the residential school and some of those stories that happened in there. It was cultural genocide, and yet we don't talk about this cultural genocide in our country. We talk about other genocides that happen in different parts of the world, but we don't talk about the cultural genocide that happened in Canada. The TRC calls there's 94 or 97 recommendations that they're asking the public, every single sector of society, to come together to start walking down this road, walking down this road of reconciliation, right from banks, municipal, provincial, federal governments, schools, libraries. So as an education system, we have a responsibility as well. There is roughly about 4 recommendations that the calls to action for education, and an awful lot of them is to start teaching about First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and start teaching about the residential schools in our school system. This is right across the country. This is not just an isolated situation here in Halton. Every single province, every single ministry of education right across the country is going down this road of truth and reconciliation. There was a National Truth and Reconciliation Commission that has just been opened up in Winnipeg, and where all the digital information will be housed for future generations. Like Stephen said earlier, 7 generations. It took us an awful long time to get to where we are, and it's going to take us a long time to reconcile a lot of things that happened in the past. Other school boards have corresponded with the Ministry of Education as well, urging the ministry to write appropriate curriculum and for us to also build capacity within our school boards to start teaching our consultants, itinerants, our teachers about the truth, about the about the true story of Canada. I'm not going to mince words. We have a history here in Canada. But what about the voices that are missing, the First Nations, Métis, Inuit voices that have gone missing for such a long time? We know that there's lots and lots of, we know that there's other voices that have gone missing and murdered Aboriginal women. They have gone missing. The statistics have said that it's close to 1,200 people, that 1,200 of our missing and murdered women who have gone missing. They've actually come out just today saying that's close to 4,000 that have been reported missing and murdered. Every single day when I open up the news, I see another girl that has gone missing or has gone murdered. We need to understand what's going on. And we only know that we know that having a voice and having curriculum to address some of these things won't have, some of these mistakes won't be repeated. Let's hope. So what we're asking that the Halton Catholic District School Board and the trustees adopt the resolution for the First Nation Métis Inuit Education Charter. You have that all in your package. We will also want to honor and begin honoring the land that we're on. We're on lands of the Anishinaabe. We're on the lands of the Haudenosaunee. We're on the lands of Ottawadan. These are traditional lands. These are ancestral lands. Somebody had walked here before the Europeans arrived. Let's honor that. We want to correspond with the Ministry of Education to include treaty education and the history and legacy of the residential schools and the impact of the Indian Act in a way that gives voice to First Peoples. And I think that's about it. I think we got our time. Is there anything else that you would like to say, Stephen?
Again, I want to start off by inviting my learned friends here. If you would join me in acknowledging that this land that we're on right now is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit. But going beyond that, what I also want to acknowledge is that there's many nations that have walked on this territory. Okay? From the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, there's many different nations that have walked this. And for my daughters, I ask simply, is it too much for you to acknowledge the lands that we're on right now, as that is the traditional territories of the First Nations? So as a point of reference, as a point of starting, I'd invite you to just simply acknowledge that with me. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions or anything you'd like to pose. We will be returning on March 1st with the next steps with the motion and action. So if there are any questions at this time that you'd like to pose, I'll invite them.
Trustee Quinn?
Thank you very much for coming today. Appreciate it very much. I had a question for Trustee Bracken. The reference to the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops said that they were going to address the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. I'm wondering if they have done that yet.
I'm not aware that they have proceeded with that at this point in time, but I know that they have declared that they will be following up with that.
So are we being asked to act prior to the direction of the bishops of Canada, or to wait the guidance of the bishops of Canada in response to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee?
I shared this, the statement by the Permanent Council for your information, just in case the trustees haven't seen it. So I've just shared that as information.
So yes, we're being asked to act before they have responded?
I'll look into that for you, Trustee Quinn, and through Madam Chair, respond to you within the next week when I do investigate that before the vote.
Let me just share something on that note. The Halton certain initiatives. I read with great interest, as a proud Anishinaabe father, not too long ago in the Beaver, that the Halton Catholic District School Board, with this motion towards accepting the oath of allegiance to the Queen. And so I guess the question is, how much consultation was done before that was put forward, that was taken, and that, in your wisdom, that you chose to be a leader in that. My understanding is that it's the only school board, and they may be correct, I may be incorrect, it's the only school board to implement that. And I find that very interesting. I don't know what the consultation process was for that. As a First Nations person, I have an opinion on that. Having daughters in the school board, I have an opinion on that. So sometimes we can choose to take the lead on things, and sometimes we can choose to stand back. So I would just pose it to you is that, again, this is an opportunity for this school board to be a leader in an issue of national importance. And I just ask for you to consider that in a good way.
Are there any other questions? Trustee Rowe.
You mentioned coming to an understanding of the history of the Native peoples, particular to this area, which is pretty specific, because you can't take a look at it from a provincial point of view. So how are we going to get history written that's specific to Halton particularly?
By a lot of school boards, a lot of trustees are writing the Ministry of Education a letter asking them urging them for a speedy writing curriculum that would be reflective of Ontario. So more school boards that will write the Ministry of Education kind of puts fire under their feet, or holding their feet to the fire, that they are responsible for writing curriculum. We can do certain things as far as, we do have Native Studies that is offered in the school, and we can also, develop some curriculum ourselves. But it really does come from the Ministry of Education, at the Ministry of Education, with the help of the school board trustees, to write letters to the Ministry of Education urging them to write curriculum. But it doesn't stop there. We still need to develop, we still need to build capacity in our board, we still need to have professional development in our board to understand the complexities of, especially the Truth and Reconciliation, the residential schools, and a huge segment of our own history that has been absent from Canada.
If I may add further to that, is that we can certainly wait for curriculum, for those words on paper. But the other thing another option that's open to you is to invite those traditional knowledge keepers. You have people from the Mississaugas of New Credit. They're a short drive away. I know that the Halton Regional Conservation Authority brings in Wendat knowledge keepers and elders, so that there's a lot of opportunities in this area. It's rich with different knowledge keepers. All you have to do is ask. We have our people out there that are waiting for that opportunity to come in and speak with not just the students, but with the educators and with the administrators, and to acknowledge what we know and how can we enhance you, how can we support you as educators to make sure that your students are achieving excellence.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have no delegations this evening. attached are the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 2nd, for your information there. 7.1, there's a summary of outstanding items from previous meetings, also for your information. I'm sorry, approval of the minutes of February 2nd. May I have a motion to... Arlene, thank you. And Trustee Carabella, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the action items, 8.1, suspend the section 4.16 of the board bylaws in order to have the special board meeting on March 22nd. Director Dawson?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, we discussed this briefly at a previous meeting, and in order for us to hold a special board meeting on March 22nd, Section 4.1.6 of our bylaws state unless there's an emergency, we should not meet during Holy Week. However, in order for us to give sufficient notice to the public and meet our requirements in order to present the modified pupil accommodation plan to trustees, we are asking trustees to consider the resolution below that the Halton Catholic District School Board suspend Section 416 of the bylaws and hold a special board meeting on March 22nd.
Can I have a mover for that, please? Trustee Rowe, seconded by Trustee Intomasi. Discussion? Trustee Quinn?
Perhaps, through you, Madam Chair, just to discuss the purpose of not having meetings during Holy Week and what that means, and then what is involved in deciding to dispense with that bylaw. If we don't believe that Holy Week is a holy time that we shouldn't be meeting, then the bylaw likely shouldn't exist at all. And if it does, then we should have the meeting and continue without that bylaw.
I'm not sure if that's a question or comment.
What it is a clear statement that if we decide that the reason that we have this bylaw is because we think Holy Week is in fact holy and we shouldn't hold meetings, then we should either abide by that bylaw or dispense with it because the board feels that Holy Week isn't a reason not to hold school board trustee meetings.
I'll try to respond to that, Madam Chair. Normally, when we dispense with the bylaw, it happens during the meeting that it's evolved in. So if we were to suspend the bylaw, normally it would happen at the meeting in which it occurred. However, in order to have information to trustees in a timely manner for the modified pupil accommodation, this was the option to present during Holy Week. It's not optimal. We obviously feel that Holy Week is holy. However, in order to meet the timelines, we're asking trustees to consider this resolution.
Trustee Danko.
Madam Chair, a question was submitted by one of my fellow trustees on email, so I'm just wondering if you answered the trustee directly and we didn't see the answer, or if the trustee will answer the question now, because it's a good opportunity to ask the question.
Can you bring that item to everyone's attention? Which email?
That was mine that I sent
Yes.
today, just to clarify that that what's going to be brought before us is an information final report only and nothing that we would be voting on.
Didn't I answer you?
You answered me, but it, I guess, wasn't CC'd to...
I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that it was to the... I
Yeah.
was going fast.
So you replied that it will be just received as a final information staff report.
There will be no action taken. Sorry about that. Yes.
Thanks, Madam Chair, for providing that. So, if I understand correctly, the meeting will just be to convene, to present this report as information, and then the meeting will adjourn, and it's basically just to get the document or the plan on the public record. Is that it?
In timely manner, yes. Trustee Trites.
Madam Chair, can you refresh my memory why it's a timely matter, please?
Because
What deadline beyond
we have
that?
to have it out, how many days? Oh,
Through the chair, so the way that our policy and policies and procedure were written is that we've kind of separated out the entire process. So typically what we do when we bring something for action or for the Board of Trustee approval, we go through a staff, then we move to a action report directly, and we have the delegations as well as the actions, or the trustee approval on the same night. Now, given the fact that this is a larger process, and there's going to be more than likely a number of delegations and a number of comments and feedback compiled on this date, what we decided was best is to have a delegation on its own night and defer the action to take on this decision at a later date, 2 weeks after, to give you enough time to digest all the information and make a more, I wouldn't say informed, but not off the cuff decision, right? So that said, if we weren't to have the March 22nd meeting in terms of presenting the Board of Trustees with the final staff report with community feedback without delegations because they hadn't occurred yet, we would push back the entire process by a full 2 weeks, putting us into May, the first week of May. So that's probably a little bit too far beyond the ministry deadline of March 29th. So that was the intent of this additional meeting.
Thank you, Fred. Any other questions? Trustee Danko?
Will we be making any initiatives to generate public awareness? we don't pay much attention to board work on Holy Week, and during Holy Week or Holy Thursday, Friday, and Easter, most people are busy with the holidays. So how are we going to generate any awareness that the public knows is out there?
Through the chair, we've notified the public through a number of means. So we've gone through Center Voice, directing it to all parents. We've informed them that there's going to be the community consultation meeting, the 4, happening the first and second week of March. At that meeting as well, we will be telling them of the dates. In addition to this, we've been meeting with not only staff on an individual basis at each of the schools with these timelines. We've also been meeting with parent councils, so that's still ongoing. So again, they'll be able to relay that information. All of our timelines are on the websites. Again, it's kind of front and center on our main page in terms of the whole process. So we've been knocking on doors incessantly, and hopefully they're at least looking at the milestones as to when the dates are. We've been trying to make it as accessible and clear and on the front lines as possible so that they come to us. And I think even knocking on the doors, we did provide immediate community members to the schools with paper notifications of this. So.
Madam Chair, I'm just checking out Fred's shoes, see if they're wet from going around.
Seeing no other questions, we'll call a vote, please. Trustee Quinn?
Opposed?
And Lella? Mark? Chloe? Trustee Danko? Trustee Intomasi? Trustee Rabenda? Trustee Trice? Jackson? Trustee Carabella? So moved. We needed 5 out of 8. Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, school year calendar. Superintendent McGillicuddy.
Through you, Madam Chair, presented is an action report to recommend approval of the school year calendar for 2016-2017. As per Ministry Regulation 304, the Board is required to submit a Board-approved modified 2016-2017 calendar to the Ministry of Education by March 1st, 2016. The proposed 2016-2017 school year calendar was presented to trustees as a staff report at the February 2nd Board meeting and is now being presented as an action item. Once approved, the proposed school year calendar will be forwarded to the Ministry of Education for final consent. At this time, all professional activity days are in alignment with our coterminous board, which means that there are no transportation-related budgetary implications. Staff recommends the following action item. resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board approve the 2016-2017 school year calendar as presented.
Thank you. May I have a mover for the motion? Trustee Rabenda, seconded. Trustee Trites, discussion? Seeing none, we will record the vote, but just for ease, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Yes.
To you, Madam Chair, there was conversation at previous board meetings around the focus, and we're not seeing any math. And I'd be happy to let you know that over the next few months, we are preparing at least once a month to bring forward to trustees at future board meetings some examples and samples of the work that are being undertaken by our schools, teachers and students, so that you can have a flavor for the work that's been happening in math in the district.
Thank you. Moving on to the 8.3 action item, amendment to policy 2-07, the school day. Superintendent Cipriano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I present through you for your consideration and action, the resolution that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee and approve policy 207, the school day, daily sessions, elementary and secondary as amended. All the changes are based on the discussion at Policy Committee and based upon your input.
Have a mover, please. Trustee Quinn, seconded by Trustee Intomasi. Discussion? Seeing none. Again, recorded vote, but all in favor? And unanimous, so moved. Thank you. 8.4, rescind policy 2-22, secondary school day. Superintendent Cipriano.
Once again, Madam Chair, I present through you for your consideration and action the resolution that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee and rescind policy 2-22, secondary school day.
And a mover, please. Trustee Carabella, seconded by Trustee Rabenda. Discussion? And call that vote, please. All in favor? Unanimous, so moved. 8.5, amendment to policy 2-42, medical condition. Superintendent Cipriano.
Finally, once again, and thank you, Madam Chair, I present through you for your consideration and action the resolution before you that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee and approve policy 2-42, medical conditions as amended.
Mover, please. Trustee Rabenda, seconded by Trustee Trites. Discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. And 8.6, school consolidation capital project submission. Superintendent McMahon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Further to board reports that staff brought forward at the January 5th and January 19th board meetings, this report is to rank the 5 projects, 4 consolidation and 1 partial rebuild projects in priority order, similar to what we did with the capital priorities approvals that came through recently. Like we've done in the past too, the resolution includes an authorization to allow staff to reorganize priorities 2 to 5 in the event that we identify something in developing the business cases that would warrant such. So myself, Fred, Giacomo would be happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
Just in the tentative ranking number 5, just a mistake on it. Should say 2018 to 19. Mover for this. Trustee Carabella, seconded by Trustee Rowe. Discussion? Trustee Rabenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Superintendent McMahon, I guess. What was the situation with St. Mark's? Why did we move that out?
I'll let Superintendent Carabaccio respond to that.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Rabenda. We had some consultation meetings with the ministry staff, and we were trying to determine felt that the removal of that border pack might best serve the board if we include it with a future phase 2 consolidation that we're considering to improve the strength of that business case. To do it now would sort of, like we're to waste the reductions that we have, so if we make it more, the second phase of a consolidation more attractive.
Other questions? Trustee Carabella.
So just for me to understand, so we are writing down what we propose to do, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily what our final report will be for the PAR. And then, but you're writing down everything here, so we're just voting, we're just ranking, just to help me explain that to me. Thanks.
Superintendent McMahon.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Carabello. Yes, that's correct. We have to submit the business cases by February 29th. Board approval was to happen by the end of March. That's what we're setting up the board meeting we just talked about, and one in April, and hope that the ministry will still consider these in the most recent announcement of funding that they've which is is it attached to this, right? The memo, yeah. The memos are attached, the two memos, the child care and the other one. So you're only approving the priority order for us to submit the business cases by February. It's not a decision to act on these projects.
Trustee Quinn and then the Intimasi.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'm surprised we haven't had conversations about the priority. We just see a proposed ranking, but the ranking of these was never discussed in previous meetings where we proposed approval for these, but I haven't seen these ranked. Have I? Or I don't know that I have recognized that there was a 1 to 5 ranking.
Through the chair, no, that's a good question. Essentially what we did at the January 5th board meeting is that we ranked tentatively the order of the review areas that we would be looking at and what we were presenting as a staff. So what we said is that, our priority number 1 review area that we would like to, initiate proposals in would be Halton Hills. The second one was the Burlington review area, followed by Oakville, and then the 5th one that we had provided in that tentative order was the St. Mark's project. So here today, again, you have a little bit more, because the Burlington, we just kept it in that priority 2, both of them together. So those are interchangeable if you need to. And the Oakville ones, again, based on our conversations with the ministry, they saw that as more of a 2-pronged, or at least 2 requests to the ministry, so we couldn't put it as part of just one. So what we did in that case is that we just put St. Dominic's afterwards, because it's contingent on the priority 4 to be approved. So we kind of kept the same priority ranking that we presented back in January 5th, which was, Halton Hills at the top, Burlington, Oakville, and then St. Mark's as a reduction in people places.
Trustee Intimasi and then Danko.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Fred, just for clarification, with all this coming at us, the ministry will choose, even though we rank it. If the ministry decides that they want to throw money in one area versus another area, ultimately the decision is theirs, even if we say we'd like it to see it in this order.
To be quite frank, we don't know the answer to that question. We've seen it either way. It's kind of one of those situations, sorry, through the chair, it's kind of one of those situations where if it depends on the ministry's interpretation. We've seen in the past where, they'll, like what we've just seen in their most recent submission, November 9th, we put Oakville at number 1, and then we had the Holy Rosary one at number 3. They approved 1 and 3, but they didn't approve 2. 2013, we had Oakville second, Georgetown first, and they're like, well, if you wanted Oakville, why didn't you put it number 1? So it's one of those situations where they won't stop reading after the one if they don't find it to be a good business case, is what they say, but if they also take into consideration your priority ranking. So, we'd like to put the strongest foot forward in terms of what we're prioritizing first. There is a value placed in the priority ranking. The weight of that, I can't tell you. I don't know.
Trustee Danko?
Madam Chair, I just think that it's a good idea to to prioritize the Georgetown School. If not all the projects are funded, that will just increase the likelihood that that community gets what it's been waiting for a long time.
Any other questions? Trustee Quinn.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up on my point. At the January 5th meeting, we didn't know what the proposals were going to be for the consolidations. We saw a ranking of where there may be, and then we were given the information packages after that, after the January 5th. So when you presented to us the priorities, we didn't know what the programs were going to be.
Fair question, and through the chair, what we essentially looked at is we prioritized the review areas as a whole. So, and again, this is what we're presenting to you today. So as a review area, we thought that Halton Hills, as Trustee Danko had pointed out, was an area that was in need of renewed investment in the north. So right off the bat, we knew that whatever we would do, the intention was, again, looking to the north for the review area. When it came to Burlington, again, this is an area that we've seen the entire south of QEW area had to really be reviewed in terms of its rapid declining enrollment trends. And then Oakville, again, there were anticipated fewer schools part of it. So when we talked about the January 5th ranking, it was really based on when we're looking at this review area as a whole, how would we rank it in terms of immediate need for school closure or school consolidation capital. Now, again, we use this ranking order to be respectful of that January 5th ranking order, again, to provide some consistency as to what we had delineated within that conversation. We are more than open to discuss if you want to interchange, again, the priorities as they stand. Again, the reason that we have the Oakville, if anything, be cognizant of priorities 4 and 5, they're kind of reliant upon one another. So we can't do Dominic's until technically we deal with the other situation. So that's why those ones are consecutive.
Hand up. Your hand up. Trustee Quinn.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to propose an amendment to this resolution and request that number 4 and 5, the Oakville project, be moved to number 2.
Four and 5 be moved to 2 and 3, I think. Yes? May I have a mover for that? Well, you're moving, so may I have a seconder for that amendment?
I've read the Oakville proposals, and I think they're fantastic, and I'd like to see them get a priority.
Point of order, Madam Chair, it needs to be seconded before we can discuss it.
I know. I'm asking for a seconder before discussion. I don't see a seconder. So that amendment is failing. So, any questions before we call the vote? No? All right. Trustee Quinn?
Approved.
Manuela? Trustee Rowe? Chloe? Trustee Danko? Trustee Intomasi? Trustee Rabenda? Trustee Trites? Jackson? Trustee Carabella? Thank you. All right, moving to the new 9.1, North Oakville Preserve Catholic Elementary School Boundary Review. Superintendent Cipriano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I present the staff report regarding the North Oakville Preserve Catholic Elementary School final report and recommendation. As part of the staff report, you have before you the list of project milestones and the dates each of the tasks were completed. You also have, as part of the staff report, the history and process that has occurred since the Ministry of Education announcement on November 9th, 2015, that outlined the approval for a capital allocation grant for the construction of a new 671 pupil play school facility and capital funding for the construction of a new 88 space child center attached to the school. Following the approved resolution in November 2015 by the Board of Trustees to have staff conduct a school boundary review process for the new North Oakville Preserve Catholic Elementary School, board staff initiated a boundary review as per our board operating policy I-29, including the creation of a school boundary review committee made up of parents from both the St. Mary Catholic Elementary School and the Our Lady of Peace Catholic Elementary School. I do want to thank those parents and welcome and thank one of those parents for his patience tonight, Jason Luchin. Thank you, Jason. I was going to say wave, but you're the last one in the audience. So Jason is a current parent of children at St. Mary's Catholic Elementary School, and he will be a parent of children that will be attending the new North Oakville Preserve Catholic Elementary School. And Jason will also sit on the naming committee for the new school as well. So once again, thank you, Jason. After careful consideration, including review of the stakeholder input from the community consultation evening and the online submissions of input, the School Boundary Review Committee came to the unanimous decision to recommend the following option. Number one, that the proposed boundary be implemented for the 2016-2017 school year, whereby these changes shall have the effect of altering existing attendance areas by redirecting patches V23 and V24 from the St. Mary Catholic Elementary School to the new North Oak Preserve Catholic Elementary School. There's a map in your package, and it is, if you have the colored version, it is the yellowed portion of the map, all north of Highway 5. And then number two, that all grade 7 students enrolled in the 2015-16 school year be offered the option of grandfathering to remain at their home school until they graduate to the secondary panel without transportation. Furthermore, siblings of grandfathered students will not be given the option to be grandfathered. Board staff have reviewed the recommendation and agrees with the advisory committee's recommendation. The next steps in the process is for the board to receive and consider delegations from the community at the March 1st, 2016 regular meeting of the board and receive an action item from senior staff and decide upon approving these recommendations. I or any member of the board team that worked on this report would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Trustee Quinn.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Camilo, how many people, aside from the gentleman in the audience, were involved in the committee, and how many members attended the information session?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. 4 parents were on the committee, 2 parents from St. Mary's, 2 parents from Our Lady of Peace. The 1 parent from St. Mary's attended, I believe, the first meeting but did not come to the subsequent meetings. All of the parents were in full attendance at all meetings. At the parent community consultation night, I'm not sure, Fred, did we have a final tally of all parents that were in attendance? 40. And if you can also maybe add in how many parents or how many stakeholders inputted online.
Through the chair, if I recall, 24 online submissions. Yep, 24.
Trustee Carabella?
Through you, Madam Chair, is there any delegations planned? Do we know?
Through you, Madam Chair, none that I'm aware of.
Seeing no other questions, I thank you for your report. Moving on to the student trustee update.
All right. So we'll start with the general update. So this Thursday, Chloe, Manuel, and I are leaving for Ottawa. We're flying up there for the weekend for board council conference with the Ostaeco organization. It's going to be a lot of fun. Chloe's been bragging about it on the Facebook group nonstop for about the past month and a half. So I don't know all the details, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We also have our Student Senate Black History Month presentation on February 23rd. That's at Bishop Redding. And at our Senate meeting last week, we began to plan our Catholic Education Week initiative. So what we decided to do was make it very Student Senate involved. So they're going to kind of plan their own things, and we're just kind of going to be there to guide them. I think it's going to be really interesting. We've never done it before, so it's going to be something new for all of us. I think it's going to be I think it can have a very, very positive outcome. And then moving on to our pillar updates. So I have the Pillar of Belonging tonight. Multiple schools sold carnations or other Valentine's Day gifts last week. I know my school did singing Valentine's grams where you could buy songs for your friends, and then you could also get roses to go along with it. So a couple of times the whole student council would move into the classroom and start singing, and the one person would be like have everyone around them, and they were just blushing the whole time. It was really funny to watch. At Bishop Reading, extra carnations were sent to the librarians and secretaries to show appreciation for them. So one of the senators let me know about that. I thought that was pretty sweet. And Corpus, we have a really, really big belonging month. Our whole month of February is our spirit month, so we're doing a bunch of stuff. Tomorrow, a couple of my friends have been working on this banner that says Dignity, Equity, Respect on it. And starting tomorrow, we have like Sharpies and markers for people to color in little sections of it so that we can come together as a community and have like, it's an awesome banner. My friend drew it and like they blew it up onto this gigantic banner and it looks awesome. We also have a bunch of Civvies Days going on throughout the month. We have some drives. We were going to go to the Creekway retirement home, but unfortunately we couldn't make it happen. And our principal just bought us a Wii U, so we've had that set up in the atrium. And so last week they were playing Just Dance, and I think this week is Mario Kart. So everybody's down in the atrium playing video games on lunch. That's kind of cool. And with that, I'll pass it on to Manuela.
So tonight I have the Pillar of Believing. All the schools had their Ash Wednesday ceremony, where the students got ashes on their foreheads. Schools prepare for Lent. Schools usually have food drives being held at the school to give back to the community. For example, Assumption actually is doing a food drive at their junior dance, and they're asking everyone to bring a can of food to come in, to enter into the dance. Also, schools are encouraging for students to focus on their Lenten promises to be positive, to help others rather than just themselves. So be more giving to the community rather than just saying, I'm going to give up a sweet or something like that. And with that, I will pass it off to Chloe.
Thank you. So I'm under the Pillar of Achieving tonight. So we had a lot of university acceptances the last couple of weeks based on first sem marks going in as well as last year. So it's exciting to have our senators come and tell us where they've been accepted, and my friends as well, writing on social media and all that. So it's nice, kind of pitiful because I haven't gotten anything yet, so I'm just hoping that the Lord is on my side with that. And then also, Jackson was telling me how one of his friends received a $8,000 scholarship to Carleton, and then jumping on top of scholarships, a student at Bishop Reading, her name is Anne Mathula. She recently received the Queen's Chancellor Award, so that is it's basically the highest scholarship that you can get at Queen's University, and hers, I believe, is worth $36,000. Yeah, so it's going to help pay for a big chunk of her education as well. And then the same student, Anne Mathula, and Jennifer Palfy, they are going to DECA International. So for those of you who don't know what DECA is, it is a business competition. So first you start off in the regional section, and then if you qualify, you go into provincials. So provincials happened the first weekend of February in Toronto at the Sheraton Hotel, and then from there you move on to internationals. So they say that you only have about a 6.6% chance of moving on from provincials to internationals, because chances are there's close to 300 people, 300 to 400 people in your category, and they only take about top 7. So that in itself is really great. So they're going to go to Nashville in the month of April and then compete at DECA Internationals. And then just continuing on the scholarship band, and moving kind of out of the board, we had 3 student trustees at the OSTA level. So 3 student trustees around the province. They were just selected as Lorenz Scholars. So for those of you who don't know, it's a scholarship that's worth upwards of $100,000. So you get about $10,000 a year, and then $7,000 for living expenses, and then each summer you get a paid internship around the world in the country of your liking. So that was kind of nice to see our fellow student trustees around the province thriving as well. And then at Bishop Reading, we had a lip dub, so kind of like smash dub, karaoke type of thing to promote school spirit. So it was really funny seeing kind of like the teachers and our friends, and especially the grade 9s, going up there and like either serenading their friends or rocking out or jamming out. So that was a nice way to kind of come together and to poke fun at somebody who didn't have a not so great voice. And then just finishing off with achieving, second semester started, so a lot of us didn't think that we were going to make it past the exam season, so it was nice to see that we are alive and doing well. And then for us, grade 12, especially me and Jackson, we're just looking at the light at the end of this tunnel that hopefully is going to come soon. Although we're going to miss the boards, like we cannot wait to leave because high school is it's just one of those things. So a lot of us have just been patting ourselves on the back for making it thus far. So that kind of wraps up our student trustee update.
Thank you all. The school educational field trips are attached for your information. Any questions? No? 10.3, parent survey. Director Dawson.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Trustees will recall a motion that was brought forward in October where we were asked to send out a survey before or by January 31st to survey our parents with regard of the quality programming at their school and ask for their feedback so that we could better understand the needs of our district. The survey was specifically to ask parents whether they had considered leaving the board and with follow-up questions as to why. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Research and Development Services as they did a comprehensive literature review of the factors contributing to parental concerns and decreased retention rates in schools in order to develop these surveys and the possible concerns that parents might have for considering leaving our district. The survey objectives were to build a comprehensive process for parental feedback, ask if parents had considered leaving the school system and if so, why, and then this was also to provide trustees with a better understanding of the needs in our school communities. So during the survey, which took place between December 16th and January 8th, one initial was sent out and then a reminder was sent out to complete the survey, so we wanted to make sure that parents had ample opportunity. We had 2,903 parents complete the survey, and of those who completed the survey, 78% say that they had not seriously considered leaving the board to enroll their student elsewhere. And of the 628 parents who said yes, their reasons for or motivating their decision were considered from the list, and the list is attached for you in the appendix. Some of the top concerns that were motivating their decision are listed in the table for you on page 108 of your package. We also note that there was an other section, so if there was some other reasons why parents wanted to leave but they weren't in the list, there was an other section, and then many of those responses that we received were also expanded upon just from the list below. So although they might have picked getting and keeping good teachers in the list, they'd also expanded upon it in others. Other themes presented within those written comments under other are listed in bullet form for you as well. And then in the last question, our parents were asked, in your opinion, does your child's school put too much, too little, about the right amount of emphasis on strengthening our distinctive Catholic character of its schools and its programs? And 76.43% said about the right amount. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Director, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm wondering what your, I think that it was very well put together. I was glad to see it go out so quickly on a short timeline. I'm wondering what your feedback would be to us as in the results stating that 20-odd% of our current parents were or had considered moving boards. How should we react as a board of trustees to that number?
just to put it into perspective, it wasn't 20% of our parents. It was probably 20% of 11.8% of our parents, so an even smaller amount.
Do we not think that's a representative sample?
Any completion of a survey is welcomed and approved or accepted. It's a small sample size. I can actually ask research how valid or a concern that would be in terms of quantity. Any of the feedback that we got is for senior staff and for trustees to consider, which we will be doing with our budget and as we move forward in considering what's important. I'm saying there were 628 parents who considered leaving and gave us reasons why. So that's a number of people that wanted to tell us why they were leaving.
Trustee Intomasi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to be clear, they were thinking of leaving. It doesn't necessarily mean that they left.
Right.
So they considered it, but we don't have any kind of number to say exactly how many left. Would we be doing this survey again as on an ongoing basis, I believe?
Yes, I believe, I think at the end of the year and then once a year after that. Yes.
All right, thank you. 10.4 International Congress for School Effectiveness and Improvement. Dr. Brown?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to present for the Board's information to report back about the Halton Catholic District School Board's representation at the ICSE conference held in Glasgow, Scotland from January 6th to the 9th. Just as background, the ICSE conference is an international forum for researchers, school and district leaders, teachers, local and national policymakers, NGO personnel and consultants to come together to promote both research and encourage practices that will enhance the quality and equity of education for students around the world. The key themes of the conference were educational leadership, the use of data to inform policy and practice, collaboration and coherence, and the intersection of theory and practice in schools. And the conference theme was connecting teachers, schools, and systems, creating the conditions for effective learning. The ICSE conference was a gathering of some of the most prominent educational leaders and scholars from around the world. Keynotes included the Prime Minister of Scotland and the Education Minister from Scotland, as well as educational scholars and policymakers. And the opportunity to connect with and interact with these folks from around the world was a privilege, and perhaps even more so because I was able to do so on behalf of the Halton Catholic District School Board. I thought the trustees would be interested in some key learnings that were emerging themes that were at the conference that certainly are on the radar at the conference and would also be ones that would be on the public discourse from around the world. One that certainly I think our trustees would be interested in is that internationally, education in Ontario is revered. People want to talk about it all the time. The Prime Minister of Scotland talked about our Achieving Excellence document in her comments to the delegation, to the conference. Equity is seen as a key lever of student achievement. A key theme is collaboration within and throughout systems. So the idea of breaking down silos is something that's of key interest around the globe. Student achievement will increase along with the focus and priority given to mental health, wellness, and positive culture and climate in schools. Leadership development continues to be something of international focus, both formal and informal, as a key to fostering and sustaining such climate. And the idea of the importance of the practical connections between theory and practice. Ideas matter when they're connected to practical realities in contemporary schools. So as you know, as a co-presenter with the Ontario group, I was honored to share our work in Halton Catholic through our collaboration with the Council of Ontario Directors of Education, a consortium project with boards from across the province. And also as an individual presenter, I had the opportunity to share leadership strategies and framework through my Halton Catholic District School Board lens. And participation in the ICSE conference in such a public way also provided the opportunity to highlight what I consider our gift as publicly funded Catholic education to an international audience with an appetite for learning more about public education in Ontario. So Halton Catholic really is recognized as a leader within Ontario and as such a leader in public education around the world. Sharing this work with an international audience is an encouragement to our system, and also it helps to refine our ongoing focus on ongoing improvement. we're doing good things, and we're always looking to see how we can do more and do it better. And the participation and connections at a conference such as this helps with those connections and helps to continue to focus our work. I'd be happy to take any questions from the trustees.
Thank you for your presentation. Question from Trustee Rowe, then Ian Tomasi.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Dr. Brown. Did you notice then that the emphasis on mental health seems to be gaining international recognition, and procedures are coming out to address that problem?
Very much so. I'll give you probably a provocative statement that came out of the conference from one of the keynotes. Pasi Salzberg was the Minister of Education in Finland, and he's now a prof at Harvard, and he was one of his talks, he was talking about, he was using PISA data to take a look at high-performing school systems around the world, and Canada being consistently one, according to PISA data. And the comments were the fact that the systems that do well are ones that have a high commitment to equity and mental health and wellness. And actually the comment that he made that I thought was fairly provocative was that when you are focused, if you focus solely on literacy and numeracy, it's not that you're wasting your time, but your time is better spent really focusing on creating conditions where kids want to be and want to learn. And then when we're doing that in combination with our great literacy and numeracy work, that's when our achievement goes up. So then further to our work on Ontario, wellness as being one of the pillars of the Achieving Excellence document. Certainly it was an example to other systems around the world when our four pillars are improving student achievement, closing the gap, mental health and wellness, and increasing public confidence in education. The idea of mental wellness as being a pillar of education was certainly seen as being at the vanguard.
Trustee Tomasi?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, Brendan, for going. I mean, I know you have to take time away from here to go there, so I know somebody has to step in, but it is great to be represented and to be able to just obtain that kind of feedback. And I guess I'm just wondering, logistically, when you come back, what kinds of things do you do with your staff? Because I'm assuming you're coming back with a lack of knowledge. Although you're imparting what we're doing, you're also hearing globally, as you've set out here, what's going on. I'm just wondering what kind of dialogue you're having with your staff then when you come back, so that they also can, be proud and get more inspired to keep going.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, I would kind of connect back to the comment I made to Trustee Rowe about our work in mental health or strategy development. When we're taking a look at what the research is saying about the impact of student achievement when they are mentally well, when they're places they want to be and want to learn, really coming back to talking about our mental health strategy with Patricia Weber-Callahan, talking about some of the intentional work that we're doing that is creating conditions in schools for student well-being. It really does inform our work. Not only we intuitively know that these are good things, the Ministry of Education makes it a priority, but then when we're getting international data such as PISA research that's saying these systems that are having this focus are doing well as a result, certainly influences and encourage us with the work that we do.
Director Dawson?
Can I follow up on that? Just to build on what Brendan was saying, we have meetings every Monday in our academic and admin council, and we have a portion of our meetings where we share professional learning. And whether we've done some readings or we've attended conferences, and Brendan brought his highlights back to senior staff. And I know that every one of us takes it with the lens of our portfolios, and when Brendan was in Scotland, he was tweeting like crazy, so there were some key messages that he got across, and I had to give a talk to leadership candidates, and I tried to include some of the latest research and some of the learning. So it's not just it's lateral learning, so it's not just the people who work underneath Dr. Brown, it's everybody can learn from a senior staff member when they go on these conferences.
Brendan?
So to further that, it was interesting actually at the leadership, because Director Dawson was speaking to our leadership group, And through the power of social media, when you're talking in real time about things that we're learning, to go then having our leaders come out and some of the things that they were saying about what they were learning even from the tweets was quite encouraging. And it was neat from a staff perspective to be hearing staff talking about being proud, saying that we think we're doing good work in Milton and in Georgetown and in Burlington, and it's neat to know that that work is being respected elsewhere. And there's a common recognition when we don't pat ourselves on the back. We think we're doing good things, and now what's next? And there was that real sense with the staff that we talk about that these are good things, and let's continue to move forward.
Thank you very much. 10.5, North Oakville Preserve Construction Report. Superintendent Carpaccio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our first report. There isn't a lot of detail in there, and we'll provide more information at the next one. Suffice to say that the tender results that have come forward so far, 5 of the major tender packages have gone out, which represent about 2/3 of the cost. And so far, we are on budget, and the schedule shows that we're projecting a September entry into the school occupancy, but there will be some work to complete as well on the site. I'll be pleased to answer any questions the trustees may have.
Seeing no questions, moving on. Attached are the CPIC minutes of January 11th for your information and comment. Attached also are the Policy Committee meeting minutes of January 12th and the OXTA resolutions 13 to 15 in regards to hiring practices and support for boards to address the high rates of absenteeism. This will be brought up again at the AGM. This is leading up to the AGM. Number 12, attached are the 2 pieces of correspondence. You've seen the letter from the Elementary and Secondary Principals and Vice Principals Association in reaction to our oath of citizenship, and a letter from Joe Maher from Oakville, the oath of citizenship. So we put them on here today because there, as Steve Paquette mentioned earlier this evening, there really wasn't any discussion prior to the oath going out. So to handle everything respectfully and with due diligence, we're going to offer this chance now if anybody would like to respond to the letters in discussion. No? Yes?
It's not my place to respond to the letters, so that's the place of the chair. But we did talk about this somewhat at the last meeting, and they have raised some points in that there wasn't any consultation in a board that prides itself on democracy. So we did speak a little bit, and I know that maybe a few of us spoke, but I'm not sure if we all spoke, about the possibility of looking at the policy concerning amending policies, so that we review the policy. I think it's policy number 1. Policy number 1, that is that the policy to amend policies. So we review that policy with looking at possibly improving the opportunities for people to have input, as we always pride ourselves on doing. And I think that I mentioned at that point in time, I know with you, Madam Chair, we had a side conversation, and we talked about the opportunity to make input to a policy if it was a significant change. So it would be a significant change that would warrant an amendment. And what is a significant change to each and every one of us? It may be different according to the day. And we did discuss, as I suggested, that anything that's in the Education Act would be significant, because if the ministry thought it was worthy of being in the Act, then we would consider that as significant right away, and then there would be additions to that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment? No?
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Rabenda, Policy 1 is on the agenda for our March 29th policy meeting, with language that is being crafted currently to address the comments you've just made. to address both the comments regarding any amended policy and requesting stakeholder input and what that will look like.
We have no open question period. We do have to move back into camera, though. So, do the resolution, should we do the resolution for absentee now? Will someone please, no? Okay. Can I have a motion to move in camera, please? Okay. Trustee Rowe, seconded by Trustee Carabella.